Okay, so for this demo, we are going to create collages inspired by the pop artist James Rosenquist. And so here's a quick preview of the collage that I will be creating. This is a combination of 5 different images. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 5 images that I downloaded from the web. And you can do the same. You can use internet images for this exercise. You can do a combination of web images and your own images, or it can be entirely your own, or it can be images from the web. For this exercise, any one of those combinations is okay. And what you're going to do is choose images that represent something about you. And all images, of course, need to be school appropriate. So no guns, no drugs, no sex, it's pretty obvious what you're going, what you shouldn't do. Just make sure that you keep your images school appropriate. Thank you very much. Okay, so to start, we are going to create a new image. And to do that, we're going to go to File, New. And for this, we're going to make this 8.5 by 11. So 8.5 by 11. And up here, you can name your document. And we're going to just call this collage and then your name. Okay. And click OK, and you will get a blank canvas to work from. Now, I have already downloaded my 5 images. And I'm just going to start by kind of placing them all into my workspace. So to place them, I'm going to go File, Place Embedded, and I will look on my computer for those images. And here they are. I have an avocado because I love avocados. And I have File. Okay, so once that's embedded, you just need to click Return or that check mark to place it. File, Place Embedded. I have one of my favorite cars from when I was in college was a little 2002 BMW. I loved that thing. And File, Place Embedded. A film reel poster. Just wanted to give it kind of a graphical element and tie in my love of film. File, Place Embedded. The Golden Gate Bridge. I lived in San Francisco for about 10 years. So I want to represent that. File, Place Embedded, and what's my last one? I was once told that my home looks like a traditional Swedish home. And I looked up Swedish homes on the internet. They all are like this sort of red barn kind of look. And that looks a lot like my house. So which I love. So I'm going to include that too. And here you can see they're all in my layers palette. So you can turn the visibility on or off for each one of these layers. And you can move them around in the stacking order. Of course, what's on top is what you'll see. So I'm going to move the house down to the bottom. I'll put the Golden Gate Bridge down there too. I think this graphical element of the film poster will work well on top. And you can move these around as you go, but I'm going to start with the bottom. So I'm turning off the visibility of all of these layers by clicking on the little eyeball next to that layer. And I'm going to start with this Swedish home. I'm going to drag this down to the bottom here. I'm on the Move tool, which is up here. The shortcut to get to the Move tool is the V on your keyboard if you want to use keyboard shortcuts. And I'm placing this down at the bottom. And what I want to do is I kind of want to get rid of this blue sky so that it feels like it just blends into the rest of it. I don't like this cut right there. So we'll use a technique that we used in our last couple assignments, and that is selecting the color range. Now remember, you have to have something selected before you do anything. And right now, none of these layers are selected. So I'm just going to click on that Swedish home layer right there. And then I'm going to go up to Select Color Range. And I will, just by bringing my cursor into here, my cursor turns into an eyedropper. So I can click on that eyedropper, and this is a little representation of what I've got selected. So the white shows me what's been selected. So I can hit OK, and there we go. I have a selection there. If I want to expand or modify the selection, I can go up to Select, Modify, and you can feather the selection, you can expand it. And I think I want to expand it a little bit. And so I'm gonna expand this by, I'll go with 6 pixels, see what that looks like. And click OK. And now my selection's got a little bit bigger. You can keep adding or subtracting, changing that if you want. If it's too much or too little, just go back to Select, Modify, and go to Expand or Contract. If I want to expand it even more, 7 pixels, see what that looks like. Okay, so now I have this selection here. And if I zoom in, I can see it's selecting some things that I don't want. So this selection is now too broad for me. So I'm actually going to go to Select, Modify, and Contract. So I want to contract this by, let's say, 3 pixels and see what happens. And it's getting a little bit smaller, but you can live with that or you can adjust it. The main thing that I'm seeing here is that the top of the house is included in my selection, and I want to delete stuff. So I can remove anything from a selection by clicking on my lasso tool. And if I hold the Shift key, I can add to the selection. Or if I hold the Option key, I can subtract. And I don't want this part of the house selected, so I'm just going to subtract from that. And then I'm going to hit the Delete key and see what happens. And it's telling me it can't delete this because this object is not directly editable. Usually that means you need to convert your layer either by rasterizing it. Let's see. Let's rasterize it, and now we'll try and delete. And there we go. It deleted it. So let's zoom out a little bit, and I got a lot of that blue taken away. To get rid of your selection, Command D, and you can see what you got. And I know that I'm going to do a lot to this, so this is sort of working. If you want to go in and touch up anything, you can, for example, if you want to erase these edges even more, and you can adjust the opacity of your brush and the hardness of your brush. Up at the top here, my opacity is down pretty low, so I'm going to boost that up to like 75. And then I can erase a little bit faster. There we go. Get rid of this kind of hard edge. And again, I know a lot of this stuff is going to go away once I start adding in all of those other layer elements. Okay, so that's looking pretty decent. Now I'm going to turn on the Golden Gate Bridge layer and see what we can do here. This layer, I think I want to modify the size, transform the scale. And once I have it active, if I just grab these edges, I can do that. Right. So I think I like that it's kind of coming through the frame here, but I don't want it right in front of the house. So I'm actually going to drop this layer behind the house and see how that looks. And keep in mind, as you're working, things are going to look a little strange, but you can always adjust it. Let's turn on the BMW, my little 2002. Okay, here we go. So this one, I'm going to use the object selection tool, and I'm just going to see how well Photoshop selects the car. Rosenquist used a lot of cars and things like cake in his images. So with Rosenquist in mind, I'm going to use a car as well. And as I'm zooming in, Photoshop did a decent job of selecting my object, but it's missing a few things. So I'm going to add to the selection by using my lasso tool. And I'm going to hold down that Shift key and notice how the plus sign gets added. That means if I hold down that shift key, I can just add to my selection here the things that it missed. And I can also subtract by holding down the option key. So if I want to take away things that Photoshop thought I wanted or add things that it left out, I'm just going to use the shift key and the option key to add or subtract. And there we go. It's pretty close. Okay, so now that I have the car added, I'm going to fix up that bumper a little bit. Now that I have the car added, I'm going to just create a clipping mask. I'm just going to go down here and click on the mask, and then my little car there is on its own. And that white background is deleted, and I can move the car right here to the front. I'm not even going to rescale it. I like the size there. Collages can have a little bit of whimsy if you want. Just, you know, the size, the color, all of that stuff is left up to your interpretation. Okay, so let's see, what do we have next? Now I'm going to go to this film reel poster. I'm going to save those avocados because I'm not quite sure how those will fit in. But so I'm going to turn on the visibility, and I've got this brick wall behind it that I don't want. So I'm going to use my rectangular marquee tool, and I'm just going to select the edges all the way from edge to edge of the poster, and then click on my mask, add layer mask option there. And now I have this film poster without that brick wall. And I can transform the scale just by grabbing these edges. I want it to fill the whole frame. So I'm just going to keep pulling on this until my entire image is full there with the film reel. We're very close. Some fine tuning. I got a little left over here. So I'm just grabbing this edge, and there we go. Okay. So now I've scaled it to the right size. I can click place. There we go. And now what I want to do is with this layer, I want to blend it, because of course here it's just taking over everything. And if you remember from an earlier unit when we were using blending modes, they're right here. The default is normal. Normal means it's not blended at all. We're looking at the picture as a normal image. But if we want to blend it with that layer selected, you go over to the blending mode and you get this drop down, and you can start going through and looking at all of the different options here under the blend mode. And I kind of like the way screen looks, but I'm still just going to go through and look at these other ones. And again, this is going to be your own personal aesthetic, but I'm going to stick with screen. That kind of brings it all together, and it's giving it more like of a postery look. So I'm going to hit return, and now we'll go to my avocado layer and see how we can work in my love of avocados. So I'm going to turn that on. And we will do the same thing. I'm going to move this to the top here just so I can see what I'm working with. And I think I'll try and select the avocados and get rid of the white. I could just go right in and see how these avocados would blend if I use a blending mode. That's not too bad, actually. Let's see. I don't love it, but so I think I'm going to go back and do some more work to it first. So click OK. I'm going to go back to my object selection tool and select the avocados here. See if Photoshop can just do a nice selection of it for me, and it does. So I'll hit my add layer mask button there, and now I have the avocados just sort of on their own here with no white background. I can rescale them. I'm going to put them a little bit smaller up here. I'm going to put them underneath the film reel because I like that graphical element coming through. And let's see how this looks. It's okay. It's a little distracting up there. So I'm going to select it again and see if a filter might help. I'll go through the filters, and you can kind of just do this in an experimental way, right? I want to stylize it. So let's see what some of these, let's see what oil paint looks like. And if you don't see your image here, it's just because it's probably showing the whole canvas. And I zoom out a little bit. There they are. And I can zoom in. Zooming in while you do this will show you, it gives you a little preview of what that filter looks like. And you can adjust it if you want more or less stylization. You can adjust these sliders to get a look that you like. And once you're happy with it, you click OK, and it will add that adjustment. And there you have a collage of these 5 different things that kind of represent some aspect of my life that I think would work well in a collage. So to save this, you're going to do it 2 ways. You're going to File, Save the Photoshop document, and you want to save that to the cloud. If you named it in the beginning, it will keep that name. You can just hit Save. And once you've done that, you want to also export as, File, Export As, and you want to export your image as a JPEG. Click Export and choose a destination like your pictures folder. Again, the name should be Collage and then your name. This is Collage Miss Wilson. And hit Save. And then you have your image ready to turn into Google Classroom. That's it.